as Hashira Training continues to progress, all I can think about is the closer and closer that we inch to Infinity Castle. What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about my predictions of how they're going to adapt Infinity Castle. I'm not really going to be dipping into any major manga spoilers, however, I might say a few things here and there that are kind of no context with not a lot of information. Do with that information as you like. If you want to go into Infinity Castle like completely blind, then this video might not be for you. However, it's not going to be a video that's just like, oh, when this happens, I think this is when they're going to adapt this. I'm going to be very, very broad and very, very basic, if that makes sense. But as Hashira Training has continued, it's obvious that we have a looming battle ahead of us and that it's going to take place in the Infinity Castle. I'm very, very excited for this arc. It is most people's favorite arc in the manga. It's actually not my favorite. My favorite is actually the final arc, which is a bit of an unpopular opinion because I think the final arc is when people really started to feel like it was a bit rushed. But I felt the final arc was handled really, really well. I very much enjoyed it. This arc that's upcoming of Infinity Castle arc still has the potential to be like the shonen anime arc of our generation, and I don't think Ufotable is going to fumble it at all. I think it's clear that they're absolutely putting in a lot of effort into it, and it's going to be really, really good. So here are my predictions on how this is going to be adapted. First of all, I just want to say that there was a leak like a year ago or so that Infinity Castle is going to be adapted into a movie trilogy. Now, I always take leaks with a grain of salt. This is a fairly reliable leaker. They actually did correctly leak that Hashira Training was going to be 8 episodes before this season started. So they do have a lot of correct leaks that come out. However, again, whenever it's a leak with something production-wise, I always just say, take it with a grain of salt. Ufotable is going to announce however they're going to adapt it when this season ends. We only have 5 weeks left before we know how they're going to adapt Infinity Castle. That's why I'm making this video now, because I want to talk about the pros and cons of if it is a movie trilogy and how I think they're going to do it. That being said, I think the probability of it being a movie trilogy is fairly high. I think that, like I said, this is a very reliable leaker. I think that they probably know someone who is like a part of the Ufotable staff or something. And when they continue to get these things right, there is definitely some merit to what they are saying. So I think it is very highly likely that this is going to be a movie trilogy. Something that I didn't know a while ago is that Ufotable generally does animate movies. Like their go-to has always been, they've been like a movie anime studio, not a series. Demon Slayer, I think, is actually one of their first just series that they've animated. So it makes sense that they would want to make movies. Also, Mugen Train was extremely successful. It is still to this day the highest grossing anime movie of all time. They know what they're capable of. They know what the audience wants, and I think a lot of people do want this in a movie format. I am fine either way. I think that there are more cons involved with it being a movie trilogy than it being a series, which I'm going to talk about here in a moment. However, I think that seeing Infinity Castle animated on a movie screen is going to be an experience. I actually never got to experience Mugen Train in movie theaters because when it was in theaters, I hadn't even started watching the show yet. And by the time I got to Mugen Train, it was already airing episodically. Like it was on like episode 3 or 4 of Mugen Train. So it was long after it was gone from theaters. So I never got to experience Mugen Train in movie theaters. Now, of course, I did get to experience the world tour twice in 2023 and 2024, which was a lot of fun. And because of that, that's one of the reasons why I'm so okay with Infinity Castle being a movie trilogy. But I would prefer it to still be a series, a season. But let's talk about the pros and cons. So I'm gonna just say the cons first of it being a movie trilogy because there are quite a few. This is all based off of my own opinion. Everyone is a little bit different in what they want and what they enjoy, so take what I say with a grain of salt as well. This is more of just me getting to say what I want to say on a platform. So con number 1 of it being a movie trilogy is that it'll take a lot longer. When you think about it, even if they were to split Infinity Castle into 2 cores, let's say they put a 6-month break in between and it's like 12 episodes and then 12 episodes, that would still be done, like let's say Infinity Castle comes in spring of next year, that would mean that we would be done by the summer of 2026 with Infinity Castle, and then we would go into the final arc, and then we would be done with the show. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I want Demon Slayer to be on air for as long as possible, and I somewhat agree with that. I will be very sad when this show ends, because this show is like my life right now. But I do have to move on from it eventually, and it ending will help me like move on to other shows, hopefully. We'll see. If it's a movie trilogy, it very likely could be set up where it's like we get one movie a year, and so that means that it's gonna be another 5 years before the show even ends, which is okay. Again, I like having it on my screen, but do I want it to last that long? I'm not sure. That's just a little bit long for 2 more arcs. So that is just something to keep in mind, is that like you get it all and then you have to wait a year. It's just a lot more waiting than just having an episode every week. Another con is specific to us here in a country outside of Japan, is that there is always a delay. So when that movie airs in Japan, it's at least probably gonna be a month before we get to see it here in the States or in other countries. It could be even longer. It used to be a 6-month delay for anime movies. Mugen Train in Japan came out in like November of 2020, and it didn't come out until April of 2021 here. However, I do think because they've built relationships with these movie theaters all over the world with the world tour and everything, and because anime has just become a much bigger and much more well-known genre, I don't think it's going to be a 6-month wait. However, even a month wait is going to be a little bit tough. Being someone so active in the fandom, people post leaks without putting warnings, and I don't want to see those leaks. The leaks will be everywhere, and it'll be very, very annoying, and it'll be difficult to have to wait that month after all the Japanese people start talking about it before we get to see it. It's not a huge deal, but it is something to keep in mind, is that there is that delay. When it is airing week to week, we get like a 3-hour delay, and that's it. So that's a big difference. Another con I would say is just that we would be missing out on an OP and an ED and that fun week-to-week experience. I know a lot of people don't like the week-to-week experience. They are more bingers, so they actually would prefer to have like a bigger chunk in one sitting like a movie is. However, I really, really enjoy that week-to-week, and Infinity Castle is a very long arc, so we would be talking a full length, like 25, 26 episode season, and I would love for it to just be on my screen every week for half a year like it was with Jujutsu Kaisen last year. I'm like not that into JJK, but I still enjoyed literally it being on air from July until the new year, and it was just like exciting to talk about it every week. With Demon Slayer, we only get like 11 weeks, and in this situation it's only 8 weeks. So I want it like to just be on the air continuously. That's like a way more enjoyable experience for me specifically than having to like get a big chunk, wait a year, get a big chunk, wait a year. Like that to me is a con, but that's a little bit more very specific to me. All right, but let's talk about the pros of it being a movie trilogy. And the first is the most obvious one. Getting to see the Infinity Castle arc as a movie in the big theater on the big screen with the big surround sound would be so much fun. Genuinely, especially for me because I did not get to experience Mugen Train on the big screen like I already mentioned. Getting to see Infinity Castle, which is going to be even more of a spectacle than Mugen Train, we already know it, is gonna be really, really fun to see in movie theaters. I think that Demon Slayer is a show just in general that deserves to be viewed on the big screen with that surround sound, and it would be a lot of fun to get to do that. Just seeing it all unfold, I think would be a spectacular experience, and that would just be probably to date some of my favorite experiences in a movie theater. Catch me in a full theater sobbing my eyes out, because Infinity Castle I'm gonna be crying a lot, just saying. Another pro is, on the flip side, I talked about it being a con, but it also could be a pro that you just get to sit and get big chunks of the anime at once rather than having to wait week to week. I think watching it week to week can be good and also bad. It depends, because with the Infinity Castle arc, each episode's gonna end on a cliffhanger. We know that much, right? So getting at least 2 cliffhangers instead of 25 would probably be a good thing, just so that you're not like constantly getting like, oh, it's over. Oh, it's over. just saying, the movies are still gonna end on cliffhangers. There's no way around that. However, at least it would just be 2 movies end on a cliffhanger, and then we get the 3rd one, which probably will still end on a cliffhanger. Because the next arc, there's not really like a happy ending in between. It's just like it's one battle to the next. Anyway, that would still be good. You know, it's good for binge watchers. It's good for people who like to get a lot more content in one sitting, so that can definitely be a pro. Another pro is the opportunity to maybe get to go to a premiere event or to just go to the movie theater with your friends and cosplay, have it be this whole big extravaganza. When it comes to Demon Slayer, if there is a full-on movie for it, there's gonna be tons and tons and tons of posters and promotional reels, and everyone's gonna know that it's gonna happen. And I have a lot of friends who are Demon Slayer fans because that's like what I talk about for my free time. I make friends with people who like to talk about it so I can talk about it with them. And so I can just see like just such a huge group of cosplayers going to go see this movie and just getting to go to maybe an event. Who knows, maybe they'll bring a premiere to Hollywood again and I'll drive over or something like that. Or maybe as a content creator, I could go walk the red carpet. Aniplex, Crunchyroll, UFO Table, hey, hit your girl up. But that's just something that would be really, really fun to experience, is just like that whole movie experience with your friends and everything. I would really, really enjoy that. So overall, it's pretty evened out. That's why I'm kind of squarely in the middle. I will be disappointed but happy if it's announced as a movie trilogy. I will be disappointed but happy if it's announced as a TV series or a TV season. We only have a few more weeks before we find out, so I am cool either way. Now, as far as my predictions, like I said earlier, I think the movie trilogy is the most likely thing that's going to happen. Like I said, the leaker that said this is a fairly reputable leaker. I think that they do have a little bit of merit with what they say, so I kind of believe them, but again, I'm taking it with a grain of salt. I'm just gonna wait till they announce it after the end of this arc. Okay, I'm gonna dip into a little bit more specific manga spoilers right now to kind of talk about how I think they would break up the movies. So here's your chance to turn away if you don't want to know more specific spoilers. Again, they're not like crazy. I'm not gonna be saying like, oh, this character dies and this character goes and does this and this one defeats them and blah, 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 but I am gonna say like who fights who. Okay, so I think they would split this up. It would be interesting because it's not like there's only 3 battles in the Infinity Castle. There's, I believe, 5. So we've got Inosuke, Kanao, and Shinobu versus Doma, which I know is split into 2 parts. So that's kind of 2 battles in its own. We have Zenitsu versus Kaigaku. We have Gyu and Tanjiro versus Akaza. We have the rest of them versus Kokushibo. I was supposed to be counting Doma, Kaigaku, Akaza, Kokushibo, and then there's also like the little bit of a fight against Nakime. So that's 5 battles that they would need to adapt into 3 movies. Zenitsu's fight is pretty quick. The first part of Doma's fight is pretty quick too. So I feel like the first movie would be like, obviously it would be Doma versus Shinobu. We would get Zenitsu versus Kaigaku, which would probably be the main focus of the first one, I would say. And then maybe like the very beginning of Akaza versus Tanjiro and Gyu. Like I could definitely see that one being split up in between 2 movies because that one is the personal one to the audience. So the cliffhanger being a part of that battle would make a lot of sense. So that would mean movie 2 would be the rest of Akaza versus Tanjiro and Gyu, and then also probably all of Kanao and Inosuke versus Doma, and then the start of the fight against Kokushibo. So that movie 3 is gonna really focus in. That one's the longest fight in this arc, is the fight against Kokushibo. But we also have to check in with Obanai and Mitsuri, who are against Nakime. And then the Infinity Castle arc goes all the way, I think, until they start to face Muzan. There is a cliffhanger that I think they absolutely could end it on, but it's after they're already coming to the surface, so I'm not sure where that's gonna end up, but it should be interesting to see where they end Infinity Castle arc. But that would be my best guess. If it's a TV series, I think it's just gonna go all the way until they come up above the, like, they're back in the not the sunlight, because they're fighting to get there, but they're in this little town. It's nighttime. They have like an hour and a half before sunrise. I think there's a very specific moment where they could end it. So I'm gonna put another manga spoiler warning because I'm going to now say where I think the Infinity Castle arc is going to end, whether it is a movie trilogy or a TV season. I think this is the perfect opportunity for a huge cliffhanger that's gonna keep everyone like, oh my gosh, I need to know what happens next. Alright, I'm gonna say a huge spoiler. I think that the final movie or the season finale, however they do it, of Infinity Castle is going to end with Muzan declaring that Tanjiro is dead. I think that's a huge opportunity for a huge cliffhanger. People are gonna be like, okay, that's the main character, so he's probably not actually dead, but how is he gonna get out of this? I think that is the perfect opportunity to end a season or the movie trilogy on that, but we'll see. But what do you think? Is Infinity Castle going to be a movie trilogy? Is it gonna be a TV season? We have a few weeks before we find out, so let me know what you think in the comments below. But that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to like the video. Also hit that subscribe button. I post video reviews every Monday and random videos every Thursday. You can also click the notification bell so you get notified whenever I post those new videos. And you can also follow me on social media. I am at Looking Nerdy on Instagram, X, and TikTok. And with that, I say thank you for watching. Johnny!